Okay, so I'm just going to use my teacher voice, but thank you so much for joining us today. We are super, super excited to have you here with us, but most importantly, we are here and excited to hear from three amazing educators from the state of Michigan. I am DJ Cherif, and one thing that I do want to share is that these are educators. You know, many times we talk about what does education need, how do we improve education, how do we keep teachers in the field, and many times we're at the table and we're making decisions on behalf of them without hearing their voices. So today we get to hear from them specifically about the solutions. We know that there's a lot of challenges and there's a lot of problems, but we're going to hone in on a Teach Michigan initiative and hear about what will it take and what has been done in the name of kids. The driving question today as educators is how can we create a profession where educators not only feel supported, but also inspired to stay, grow, and thrive? And again, I'm DJ Cherif. I'm the Chief Academic Officer at University Prep Schools in Detroit, Michigan. I am a former teacher, middle school teacher. Please continue to pray for me, still traumatized from that, because middle schoolers are middle schoolers. Former school leader, former curriculum director. I was a 2011 Teach for America Detroit alum. I am a 2023 School Systems Leader Fellow through the Teach Michigan Initiative. I was a founding Detroit Summer Learning Institute director, which was super exciting. I got to bring in 33 educators. Liz was one of them. I feel old, but I'm super excited for her. And I'm super excited to be moderating this panel and having great discussion with our leaders. We know that there are many struggles in education. We know that teacher burnout is one of them. We know that teacher retention, workload, expectations, wellness are a part of the many problems. As I mentioned earlier, what we're going to focus on today is some viable, innovative solutions. Despite all the challenges, what we can do in making some shifts in creating coalitions amongst our educators. So what we're going to do now is hear directly from our amazing panelists, and we'll start with Liz.
Hey everyone, my name is Liz Toye, and I teach 9th grade algebra at Cody High School in Detroit, and I've been teaching for 6 years now. And in those 6 years, I've completed 3 fellowships with Teach Michigan. I started out as a 2019 Teach for America Detroit member, and then I joined the 2021 Early Career Educator cohort, and in 2023, I joined the Michigan Education Policy Fellowship. And this year, I serve as an instructional coach for this year's cohort of the Early Career Educator Fellowship, and it's really been a full circle experience for me, so I'm just excited to share more.
All right, excellent.
Hey everybody, my name is Chad Vanhousen. I teach on the other side of state from these guys over in Grand Rapids, Michigan. I teach at East Kentwood High School, which is the most diverse high school in Michigan and one of the top 10 most diverse schools in America. And I'm currently a science teacher. I currently have AP Biology and Chemistry. And one of my big passions is getting kids excited about science and into science and enjoying anything related to STEM. Currently, I've been connected with a lot of different organizations. I've worked with the College Board, with AP. Down here, I've worked with NIMSY. If you're in Texas, you've probably heard of those guys, right? And currently working a lot with Teach for America. I was recently awarded an innovation grant for some of the STEAM camps that we're creating in our school. And I'm currently in the leadership, aspiring leadership program with Teach for America.
Excellent.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. My name is Dayna Peoples. Yes, sir. I am finishing my 14th year as an educator in the city of Detroit, currently serving my district as the K-8 reading specialist. I'm also co-founder of a small business in Detroit called Detroit Kids Matter, which serves as a soundboard for the positivity that is Detroit youth. I'm thankful to be able to have been introduced to Teach for America early in my career by meeting the teachers that came to our district from TFA. I learned so much from them just as far as educating the whole child past what I learned on the university level. Then I started my personal connection with Teach for America when I started the Detroit Summer Impact Fellowship in the summer of 2021, followed very closely by my fellowship with Detroit Leads, and I'm very passionate about making sure that teachers in my district are exposed to what TFA has to offer. One thing I'm very excited about is being able to rekindle the relationship between TFA and my school, and I'm really excited to see what's next.
Okay, excellent. Thank you for those amazing introductions. I'm going to set some context and give some data and some research before we jump into our conversation. I know as educators, we want the evidence and the research to support why we're doing the things that we're doing. We know that the #1 indicator for student achievement and student wellness is a high-impact quality teacher. So it's going to be particularly important, not just having a certified teacher in front of the student, but making sure that they have a teacher who's a content expert, who cares about them, and who's able to build community. When we think about the concerning trends, though, we know that more than half of our teachers are considering leaving the profession. 1 in 5 in the state of Michigan are leaving within 5 years. 2022-2023 school year, 10% of Michigan teachers left the profession, 15% changed districts, and 25% changed schools. And we know that sustainability is really, really important for our most neediest kids, especially in low-income communities. But that creates a cycle. It creates a decline. It creates a declining cycle of like teachers wanting to be here. But the compounded issue is that School of Ed is not building enough or not creating enough teachers in order to support our schools. So then there's a diminishing pipeline. And so there's already, in the face of a teacher shortage, we're struggling even to get teachers or interested teachers in the School of Ed so that they can have, so our students can have viable teachers in front of them. Public perception data also says that 39% of public would want their teacher to become, their student or their child to become a teacher. The reason why that data point is significant is because it's a decline from 60%. So it dropped from 60 to 37%. When we dive in a little deeper, among teachers, just 21% will recommend teaching to their own children. So in the face of declining job satisfaction, fewer individuals joining the profession, it creates a pipeline where we can't even motivate and influence individuals to come into teaching, right? The data shows that. But then there's another additional layer when we think of compensation. Teacher compensation in Michigan is below what we need. Teachers in Michigan earn roughly 20% less than other college graduates. Egregious. Then when we think about inflation, the average Michigan teacher salary declined more than 20% since 1999. Michigan ranks, unfortunately, 41st among states, including Washington, D.C., in terms of starting salary. And so when we think about like what our teachers need, what we do know is that there's a strong public support for increasing teacher compensation. We just need to make the bold decision and make it happen in the name of kids. Teach for America for almost 40 years has been unapologetically committed to recruiting high-impact leaders from across the country. In 2019, Teach for America Detroit took the bold stance and birthed the TeachMichigan initiative, design and curating professional development, financial incentive, wellness, trifecta for our teachers in Detroit. And then in about 2022, they expanded. They got the support from state legislature, from the community, from stakeholders, and they were able to expand statewide in our rural and urban areas across the state. And so they piloted in 2019. They saw proof points and saw promise, and they were able to expand. Over $42 million have been invested statewide, impacting 120,000 kids in the state of Michigan across 18 districts and supporting and cultivating 600 plus impact leaders. When we think about the various fellowships TeachMichigan provides, it's at every level understanding that the ecosystem is absolutely important. It can't just be at the teacher level, but our teachers are leaders. But it's also very important to invest in our inspiring leaders and also our sitting leaders. Some of the fellowships that it's included in the Teach Michigan initiative, is the Early Career Educator. Then they also have the National Board Certified Fellowship, the Aspiring Leaders Fellowship, the Sitting Leaders Fellowship. They have the School Systems Leaders Fellowship that I'm also a part of, and the Michigan Educator Policy Fellowship. So there's three major, oh, it works now. Okay. I got a little shock there. So there's three major themes that we will be focused on in the next 45 minutes. One is empowering educators at every stage of their careers, developing innovative strategies to retain teachers, including professional development, incentives, and wellness support. And then lastly, building diverse coalitions that strengthen education and systems to drive systemic change. So, our first question, are you all ready? Okay, our first question for our panelists. Why did you choose to participate in these fellowships?
I can start with that one. So for me, being in my 14th year as an educator, I thought about the current state of education, especially in the city of Detroit. And my goal, especially in my district, but also beyond, was to be able to lead and inspire others. I know as teachers, sometimes the work that we do, we feel kind of lonely, but we're not meant to work in silos. Teach Michigan has created a platform that allows us to come together and share what we know and grow with each other. I chose the Detroit Summer Impact Fellowship because I wanted to be able to see how nonprofits work in our community and then how students improve as a result of those partnerships. I chose Leads because I knew I was a leader, but I wanted to be able to really see myself more as a leader and grow as a leader. And I knew that there were some amazing leaders as a part of that program that could walk with me side by side and provide opportunities for coaching and learning. And I just wanted to be able to grow the school culture for me.
From my standpoint, I love being in groups and staying relevant. So I'm gonna give you something one of my kids told me this year. Mr. V, how old are you? And I was like, what? And how old do you think I am? They're like 65? I was like, what? And in order for me to stay relevant with kids, right, I have to be around all these fun young teachers, right? And I have to be in the group, okay? Teaching, you're gonna hear me say this a couple times. I think teaching is an individual team sport, right? Where you have to go in and do your thing, but at the same time, you need the connection, you need the group, okay? And for me, staying relevant in the current, most updated work with kids have changed since COVID. I started before COVID, right? Okay? And so staying relevant with kids and staying relevant with the rest of the community, I love being a part of a group that allows me to do that.
Well, I started during COVID.
So you're ahead of me. You know what I mean? You're ahead.
Yeah, so I joined the Early Career Educator Fellowship going into my third year, but my third year really felt like my first year because my first year was interrupted by COVID. So I had a half a year of experience, and then my second year was completely online. So going into my third year, I was just going off of a half a year of experience in the classroom. So I knew I needed all the support I could get. And then I joined the Policy Fellowship in my fifth year because I just wanted to refocus on the policy that framed my work, because I was starting to lose that perspective that, helped me understand the dysfunction I was working in just at an underfunded public school.
Okay, thank you. Liz, leadership development programs like these can transform careers at every stage. You've been involved in 3 fellowships, all the fellowships. What has been the most meaningful lesson or moments in growth in your career, or growth in your career?
The biggest lesson I've learned is that teaching is an extremely powerful position. And I have been learning that since I've been in education, but it really solidified for me in the Policy Fellowship, because that was the first fellowship I was in that wasn't an all-teacher cohort. I was just one of 3 teachers in that fellowship. Everyone else was working at the more macro level in education. And when we would come together and have these conversations about the issues in education, it was the teachers in the room that were able to bring the first-hand data. Everyone else was able to bring great information, but it was second-hand, sometimes third and fourth-hand information. And it made me realize how important teacher voice is and the importance of having these transparent, vertical conversations.
Okay, thank you. Dayna, what impact do you think these programs have had on early career educators, but also veteran experienced educators?
So I can speak to both of those because as a seasoned educator, or what I would consider myself to be semi-seasoned educator, I looked at the leadership in my district and I realized that there were some changes that really needed to be made, but they couldn't be made until all the voices were heard. So thinking about what we need as leaders, whether you are a new teacher, which I'm very thankful to be able to assist in my district, or a seasoned teacher, which sometimes I see myself as, leadership matters. It's very important to know who's leading your school because that directly impacts teaching and learning, students and teachers. And I was just thankful to be able to have an outlet like Leads to be able to show me the leader within me and then improve those around me.
Thank you. We're going to shift a little bit in talking about retention because it's one of the biggest challenges. And we love saying that teachers just need to stay in the field because they love kids, and we know that that is not enough, right? They still have to take care of themselves and the people that they care about. So for all our panelists, let's start with Liz. What type of incentives have you had, has had the greatest impact on your ability to stay in education, particularly as a teacher?
Definitely financial.
Coach all.
TeachMichigan has allowed me to continue to work in my passion without having to sacrifice my own financial well-being. When I first started as a teacher, I was making less than $50,000 a year. And even after I got my master's, just over $60,000 a year. So that's just not enough money to live well, to save, to be financially secure. So an extra $35,000 over 3 years meant a lot to me. I was able to use some of that money to pay for grad school, to set some money aside for a down payment on a house, to beef up my emergency savings. And, you know, I can, by the grace of God and TeachMichigan, say that I'm financially secure. And that is extremely rare as a teacher that's only been in the classroom for 6 years now.
All right, thank you. Chad?
For me, I'm going to go back to the community aspect. Anyone that teaches with me knows I'm an idea guy. I want to try things. I want to do new things. I want to, like I said earlier, I want to stay relevant. When I see things, I want to take them, right? You know what I mean? And I want to use them. So the idea of building a community, I mean, you can't do everything and come up with everything on your own. You just can't. And because of Teach for America and TeachMichigan both, you know, they've expanded over to Grand Rapids, and my community just went from Kentwood to Michigan, and today it just went from Michigan to Texas. So, you know, so think of all the new ideas and the new groups that I can be part of. And you know who has the best ideas for kids? Teachers. Right? Mm-hmm. Teachers have the ideas. They have this new way of doing something, this new way of relating it to someone else. And it's not even about just taking other ideas and putting them in your classroom. It's about taking your ideas and getting them vetted by other experts, which is awesome, right? Which is great.
Excellent. Thank you, Chad. Dayna?
So I'll start by saying I definitely agree with Liz and Chad. Liz, I wish I could say that I made $50,000 my first year. I won't even go there. Chad, I love my community with Teach for America. It's just like every time we're around each other, it's a breath of fresh air. So I definitely second both of what they said. But I would definitely have to say that the wellness aspect was life-changing for me. I was working as a teacher for quite some time, and it was really not until I experienced the fellowships with Teach for America that I felt that someone really valued my well-being. It was important how I was doing. And I took that and I shared it with people in my district. And when I went back and I would tell them like, hey, look at this awesome event I just went to, or look at the Empowered Weekend, they wanted to know more. And so I was able to share what I knew from TeachMichigan with my district. And then I also used those wellness aspects to form and shape my Innovation Fund project that I received, just like Chad, and take care of the teachers in my district. And it was huge for me. It wasn't just huge for me, it was huge for my district, it was huge for the teachers, huge for the leaders, and exponentially huge for the kids.
Excellent, thank you. Chad, can you share a specific example of how the fellowship or any of the professional development opportunities you engage in have helped you address some specific challenges in your work?
Yeah, so I'm going to go back to what I said earlier. I'm an idea guy. Signing up for TeachMichigan, Our superintendent helped bring it over to Kentwood, and we put a bunch of teachers, including myself, into the program, and I came to our first Empower Ed weekend. This is something that if you research Teach for America, it's basically the national championship celebration, right? Okay? The best way to say it. We're in March, which is March Madness, and that's what that event is, right? It's great. And I went to that event having an idea of what became our STEAM camps at Kentwood. And I had a few problems with it, so challenges. Who's going to teach it with me, right? Who can I bounce idea off that maybe somebody's done before, and how am I going to pay for it, right? Like those were kind of like all of my ideas. And during this Empower Ed weekend, I connect with Matt DeLawrence, if anybody knows him from TeachMichigan. Guess what? He's a funding guy. He knows how to help write grants and help do things, and you should apply this and go here and that kind of stuff. I connect with someone, Dr. Mitchell, who has run a bunch of STEM and math and science after school things for kids, and says you should think about this, and kids really like these activities, and try it this way. And then I even connected with a teacher, Rob Barrett, who's in my own district, literally just a building over. And we've known each other for years. But then when you actually had time to sit and connect and talk about it, he ended up doing it with me. So I go in trying to figure out how to fund it, need some advice on what to do with it, and I walk out with a partner to implement it, money to do it with, and a vetted program. Like, great, right?
Excellent, excellent. Liz, through your involvement in the Michigan Educator Policy Fellowship, how has your perspective on retention strategies expanded, especially in terms of like advocacy and policy together?
Yeah, so initially I thought the most impactful retention strategies were financial incentives and rigorous professional development. But now I know what's equally as important is providing teachers a seat at the table. It's extremely empowering as a teacher to be able to share my insights with decision makers and learn more about what they're considering at the macro level. Because without that context, you can genuinely feel like you're being positioned to fail by the people making the decisions. And that's extremely discouraging when you're working really hard and you feel like you don't have any efficacy, and that's actually a huge reason why a lot of teachers leave.
Great. Thank you so much for that. We know that building strong relationships and coalitions is particularly essential when we think about the sustainability of our teacher force. One of TeachMichigan's norm is that we practice being in relationship with each other. How have you lived out this norm, Dayna?
Well, thank you for asking. I have lived out this practice. It's literally a part of me. So relationships are crucial, of course, in education. You have to have a relationship with the kids, the families, your coworkers. But my relationship is like so crucial because I make sure that people know how I feel about them. I make sure that they know that I care, I check in. I'm willing to offer any and everything I can. And one of the best things I've been able to offer as a part of those relationships is the relationship with TeachMichigan. I've been able to share how impactful that relationship was for me. And as a result, I've helped people that I work with build that same relationship with TeachMichigan. So when we come to events like the Empower Weekend, where we're able to be with each other and share with each other and refill each other while we're being refilled by TeachMichigan, those relationships shine through. And they become something that's practiced daily. And so for me, it's a warm moment when I come to the Empower Weekend or any TeachMichigan or Teach for America event, and I'm able to see people that I love and care for, that I've built relationships with and maintain relationships with, and then started new relationships with. So this is something that's very intentional by TeachMichigan. They take care of us so that we can take care of each other and then take care of the kids.
Okay, thank you. Liz, how have you lived out this norm?
Well, I've kept in contact with people from every fellowship that I've been in. I'm especially grateful for all my teacher friends. As a teacher, it's really empowering to have a community of teachers to bounce ideas off of, to vent to, and I know that they really understand what I'm talking about. And I also appreciate the connections I've made with people that are not necessarily classroom teachers, because they also bring a lot of information to me. I was able to reach out to one of my colleagues from the Policy Fellowship a couple weeks ago just to get some career advice. So now she's someone in my network, and I have such an expansive network because of the programming that TeachMichigan has provided.
Can I say one thing really quick?
Of course.
I forgot to share that LEADS is very intentional with pairing you with coaches that you can maintain a relationship with as well. I'm finishing Leeds this year, but I still have a very strong connection with my coach from Leeds.
I'll say the same thing for all of my coaches too.
Okay, thank you. Chad?
Yeah, I'm going to take a different approach with them and say, look, a good relationship that works is service between two people, right? As you build them up, they build you up. If you're not having a good day, they're there for you. And that's what we want to do with all of our students. But a lot of times you pour a lot of energy into kids and you don't get a lot back, right? And the idea to have a group where you can text each other, we actually act like a bunch of high schoolers is what I like. That is the deal. Like, this is our high school group, right? And DJ or Dayna or Liz or any of them, you know, they give me a text on Friday night, your Teach America assignment's due. I'm like, oh shoot, right? You know what I mean? And we that's what we do, okay? And that ability to joke back and forth and have fun, right? That relationship piece is the best, and that idea of sharing back and forth. Okay, I think a lot of times with the young teachers, if you're not in the group or you're not in with the squad or you don't have those people, that's a fast track exit out of teaching, right? If you don't,
Yeah.
it would be with anyone. And I'll end it with this because I coach a lot of sports. You know why kids quit sports? Because they don't feel part of the team, right? They don't feel like they're part of the team. And I would say the same thing. What Teach for America has done for me personally, they let me be part of the team, right? And it's really hard to leave a team if your team's counting on you, right, to do something. Yeah.
Okay. So we know that you're a relationship guy. We also know that Kentwood was a part of the expansion because it was piloted in Detroit through Teach for America Detroit. Do you have any other context thinking about, like, how have you been able to build relationship, expand coalition, best practices with folks in Detroit or other areas in which it was expanded?
Yeah, I'm going to go back to what I said earlier, which is teaching is an individual team sport. And I'm going to use what I know because I coach tennis, right? And if you've ever watched a high school tennis match, you all get together and you do your rah-rah thing, and everybody goes their separate ways, right? And does their thing, and they got to perform. And then guess what? Then they come back together and huddle up and talk about how it went. And you can't win it all by yourself. You need everybody else. But yet you have moments when you have to do your job, right, by yourself, okay? And what I love about this is I go to work every day. I go to my Kentwood classroom, I do what I've got to do, right? But I have the ability to come back with the team, and now I've got not just the Kentwood team, but I've got the Teach Michigan team. And I don't just have the Teach Michigan team, I have the Teach for America team, right? I have this whole squad pulling and rowing in the same direction, right? And really excited about what's in store for kids when we work together.
All right, thank you. So the next question I have is really grounded in personal reflection, which I think is super important for educators. Even when we're teaching and we get the data, it's really important to step back and reflect on your personal practice as a personal individual. So I want to talk a little bit about individually, what do you believe is absolutely important, and what does that mean for your engagement in the fellowship and the perspective that you now have?
So when I think of the perspective of an educator, I think back to when I was in college and what being a teacher meant to me. So then fast forwarding, I have a different view of what an educator is, because when I look at my district, everyone in that building is an educator. All of the stakeholders are educators. We have to make sure that everyone sees themselves as a leader in education so that we can make sure that we're taking education very seriously. I'm very clear and transparent when I'm talking to early year teachers or whoever I'm able to come in contact with about their role in education and how progressive education is and how we have to make sure that we have the proper training so that we can make sure that we're pouring into our kids the right way.
Thank you. Liz?
Yeah, I'll agree with everything that you said. I definitely see educators as leaders now. Just hearing about the work that you've been doing in Kentwood, and Dayna has this amazing company. I wear your shirts all the time, get many compliments. And just being in the Teach Michigan community and seeing all the amazing things that educators are doing and leading in their communities and even beyond their school communities. So I see educators as leaders.
One of the big points is teaching's hard. right? I mean, teaching is a hard thing. And that's why people don't want to do it, or that's why people leave and they go, the struggle's real, it's tough, right? And then leading those group of people is also tough. But I'll also tell you that it's worth it. And the reason it's worth it is because it's one of those professions that unites everybody. If you were to say, hey, remember that mechanical engineer thing? You'd get like 6 responses, right? If you were to say, do you remember your favorite teacher and someone? Everyone has one, right? Yeah. Everybody's got one. And the idea that everybody's part of the job, I think that's the thing. And it's all hard. It could be the leader of a school over here, like DJ curriculum or that kind of stuff. It could be the person in the classroom. It can be the people in the finance department. The idea of the connectedness of the team and the connectedness of the mission is really, I think, what's opened my eyes the most through the whole thing. Yep.
So if you all can have and step back and reflect and think about one takeaway or one piece of advice that you have for educators, not specifically in Michigan, right, where we have the Teach Michigan initiative, but for educators across the country considering programs like this, professional development opportunities, what would it be? What would you share?
I would share that programs like these transform you into a lifelong learner if you already are not one. I would also have to say that no matter where you are in your educational journey, whether you're a first year, 5th year, 10th year, there's always something that you can get from others. We want to always make sure that we instill that same thing into students too, like never give up, never stop learning, never stop trying. And it wasn't until I developed that relationship with Teach for America that I realized what they really had to offer me, because everybody gets into this position where you feel like, I know what I'm doing, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, but then there's always something else. And I think no matter where you are, never be afraid to apply and try something new to make you an even better version of yourself than you were before.
I agree with the continuous learning. Really important to just keep learning in this field that's constantly changing. If you're considering, why are you considering? Just do it. You have so much to gain and nothing to lose, so just do it.
Yeah, I would say find your value. Where is your value? I mean, one of the biggest things that I coach with kids, and I think it applies to adults, is the idea of a fear of failure, or a feel of like, I'm not going to do it right, or I'm going to do something wrong. And you know what helps get that out of the way? It never disappears. But feeling valued, or feeling like you belong, or feeling like you're a group, gets you a little bit more courageous to try new things. It gets you want to be part of a movement, be part of a coalition, be part of a group. So if you're thinking about joining a community and you know that they share your values and you found your value, get there, right? Get there.
Okay, thank you. So before we open it up to Q&A, please prepare your questions. Do you have any last thoughts that you want to share with the group?
Something that's meaningful for me when I think about my personal journey, I was thankful to be able to receive all of my education in the city of Detroit, from grade school to grad school. And I know that's something that really could not have happened if I did not have impactful educators who were surrounding me. So fast forwarding from that long, long time ago, I want to make sure that students in Detroit also have that same opportunity to have impactful, dedicated teachers to wrap around them throughout their journey. And Teach Michigan is making that a reality for Detroit.
I agree.
I'm going to say the same. No, I'm going to say this. I'm going to end with what I said before. Find your value and join that community.
All right, thank you, Chad. All right, so we're going to open it up for any questions in the audience. Somebody has to have a question. No? Yes, please. No.
I'll use my laptop.
Yeah.
Thank you all so much for this. Everything that you shared resonated in different ways. But Dayna, I'd like to circle back to something that you shared in answer to the question about the incentive that had the biggest impact on your ability to stay in education. You named well-being. So my name is Matt Rose. I work at the Harvard Graduate School of Education in a Doctor of Education Leadership program. often feeling already so burnt out. And I've worked in the role now for a little over 7 years, and so I've kept in touch with lots of alumni from the program, and they stepped into these system-level roles in districts and nonprofits and state agencies. And the work is hard, right? It's hard at all levels. And so burnout is so common. So when you mention well-being, that is something that I think about a lot with respect to equipping our students with strategies for it while they're in our programs, supporting our alumni in ways after they graduate. So can you share some details about sort of what that structure has looked like? You know, when you talk about well-being, what sorts of things are most impactful for you? What did you bring back to the school or district in that regard as well?
Well, thank you so much for your question. I would have to say in terms of wellness, the things that stand out the most is, for me, I don't know about y'all, but I like to eat. So, okay, all right. So one thing I learned early on when I started to bring my plus ones with me, it was important that we were fed. And we were fed in more ways than one, but definitely fed. We also were able to express what we wanted. So TeachMichigan values the voice of the educator. So we were able to say, you know, we would benefit from some meditation. We might benefit from yoga. We might benefit from a gift card to somewhere to treat ourselves to something nice because we had to spend our last money on a bill. It really just depended on, one, the fellowship, and two, what that individual felt was most impactful for them. Now, what I took back to my district so that my teachers felt more prepared to take care of our kids were things like raffles. Like, teachers do a lot, so a lot of times just incentivizing the things that they do makes it a little bit easier, and it, you know, kind of increases the urgency around a deadline. Other things were like swag, things that had to do with our school, field trips, teacher outings, so that we could just be around each other and not have to think about school. And that made it feel more like TeachMichigan, because when we got together, we didn't have to talk about lesson plans or parent-teacher conference or what deadline was next week. We just really got to connect with each other. So I would say the very first thing I would do is consider the voice of the people that you want to take care of and ask them what it is they want and what's beneficial. We also, one last thing, sorry. I'm very intentional about exploring the city that we live in, and a lot of times people don't know what's out there until you share with them. So they were always very intentional about switching up where we met up, what we did with each other, and that was fun. And fun is important as a teacher.
I'll also share, in my 2019 core year, they gave us a free gym membership to the Y, and that was really nice. Like, some of my friends, they would never work out. I would see them at the gym sometimes, and I'm like, if they didn't pay for that gym membership for you, you would not be here. So that was also a really good one for wellness.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question.
Hi, I was just wondering, how could the Lions have, or no, that's not my question.
Next question. Next question.
No, I was rooting for them. I work at a career and technical education high school in Colorado. And so we have 34 programs, and, you know, everything from cosmetology to cybersecurity to culinary to graphic design. And so we try repeatedly to entice people from industry to use their experience to join the ranks of teachers in high schools and help kids with concurrent enrollment and certification so they can join the workforce or go to college. Does Teach for America or Teach for Michigan have a wing that works on people already in their careers joining the teacher workforce, and if so, has that been successful in some ways? Thank you very much.
Thank you. I would say yes, absolutely. And just for an example, I have a friend that we went to college together. We were both in the education, College of Education, and somewhere along the line, she decided she wasn't going to finish that program. And she still got her degree, just not in education. Fast forward, she was working for, I want to say Quicken or Rocket, whatever it was at that point, and she wasn't fulfilled. But I would always tell her about teaching, how much fun I had, and what we did after school, and how fun the kids are. And she was like, you know what, I think I'm ready. Like 12 years later, she was ready. And so I was able to direct her to the pipeline to get into the core, and she's finishing the core this year, and we've been working together for 4 years now. So she started before she started the core, but now she's finishing with her certification, and it's the best thing. Like, I love that for her. I cried when she passed her test. It was amazing. Did that answer your question?
Yes, it did.
Okay.
And one of the things that totally changed our environment as far as hiring was the horizontal pay structure was restructured for career and technical education so that people from industry got credit for their experience in industry as opposed to education. So they can move to level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5, level 6 horizontally on a pay structure. And they're like, now I want to teach, right? Because you can't pull somebody from cybersecurity that's making $250 and tell them, how about 30? You know, it's just not as enticing. So I'll be interacting with Teach for America and see what they're doing. Thank you.
Oh yeah,
That's
we would love
awesome.
to have
Wonderful
you.
presentation.
We might want to connect you with somebody from DPSCD so we can make sure that pay structure thing actually happens.
Well, the pay structure is actually happening at University Prep School, so if you're interested, we can have a conversation. It's competitive, so we got good talent.
It's so inspiring to hear about, the great work all of you are doing. I'm guessing, based on your funding being from your legislature, that you are not able to expand these programs to every teacher in Michigan. So I'm curious how you think about scale and reaching teachers that are not necessarily able to be fellows through Teach Michigan currently.
I mean, my first reaction, and I might not be the most knowledgeable person to answer the question, but there are several pipelines and fellowships and opportunities that are open to pretty much most people given the requirements. So there are a lot of opportunities for every teacher, I think.
Yeah. What I will say is that the hope is that we can scale as much as possible, but the beauty is that when you have a strong leader that is developed, the leaders that they lead, they will also transfer. Those are transferable skills in ensuring that they have access and opportunities to the things so that they can support their students. But at the end of the day, if we want to keep the best teachers in front of our students in the face of outcomes, then it's going to be really important that we find a way to invest in our children if we say that they're the most important at the end of the day.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Any other questions, reflections, or thoughts? I have a question. I don't know if anybody's going to answer. It's just the teacher in me. Does anyone from the states in which you come from or the school districts that you represent, if you do, is there anything similar happening? Is there anything similar like Teach Michigan happening in the communities in which you serve? Yeah, it looked like
Sounds like you
this
need to
needs
come to
be
Michigan.
replicated. Great, this is great. The silence is bad, but great.
I did not say that.
Yes, I think you wanted to say something.
Well, I think I'm also from Michigan,
Oh,
and I
okay.
think one of the challenges is some of these have come in waves. Like with Gates money, there was fellowships, I did one of those. Then there was this pot of money, and I did one of those. And I'm just curious, and I guess in terms of state level policy, how much is this being pushed into law and system structures for the state? Because that's my worry, is there'll be really great data, and then, we might have governor election coming in a couple of years where that may not be in law. So how much of that work are you doing on that end?
Armin, our executive director, is also in the audience who could possibly provide some perspective. But this is what I do know, is that everything that you said, 100% spot on. But I think that once we start sitting at the table and start talking to a legislator and they connect it to student outcomes, because at the end of the day, they invest a substantial amount of money, and we're struggling to show the outcomes in the name of kids, and so that they're creating a life for themselves that they're proud of. And so it's being at the table, making the tough decision, like, are you going to invest in kids? And it's so weird to ask people that, like, how are you going to do that without a quality teacher when all the research shows that if you don't invest in a teacher, you cannot have a child that is excited about learning, right? And so we do have to have some tough decisions. We have to make some tough decisions, have some tough conversations, and just put the money where our mouth is, because we love teachers, but we don't support them the way we need to. But Armin, do you have anything to add to that?
I think the one thing I'd share is we've been really intentional with the $35 million that the legislature has put into this project that extends out to 2027 and potentially will be renewed here in a minute. We've been really intentional about committing to a independent evaluation and sharing that learning every 6 months with the legislature, with the agency, and then with all of our funders. We just released a website. If you go to teachmichigan.org, there's a learning page on there, and you can read every report that both our evaluated Education Policy Innovation Collaborative out of Michigan State University, as well as our own internal reports. We put it all there, and that's meant because we know we can't scale it, right, to all 100,000 teachers, but what we're trying to do is model what it looks like to value our educators at a much higher level, and then show legislators what it would take to do that at a systemic level, because to your point, like, these things come in waves, and we don't ever build on top of that wave. It just comes and goes. So we're deeply committed through strategy to trying to sustain it.
And not to put you on the spot, but she's really humble. Like, this is the Michigan Teacher of the Year.
Wait, what?
Thank you for coming to our session.
I have an identical twin that actually, I'm serious, that actually is the Michigan Teacher of the Year.
Shout out to your twin.
Yeah, so
That's insane.
Yeah, that's crazy. Oh, she's like the identical twin. It's like, what? That's like a question she would ask, too.
Hi, thank you all for being here. I have a question related to teacher retention. This topic didn't necessarily come up during your presentation, but I'm hoping you all can speak to it as educators currently in the classroom. I'm actually a consultant. I work with some schools, and one of the things that comes up frequently in terms of teachers is we don't have enough time. We don't have enough time, right? I think, especially thinking about like personal time throughout the day, and like the demands or how people perceive things like PLCs or meetings with coaches. And so I'm wondering about, for each of your contexts, what's the balance? Like, how much personal time do you have in your daily schedule? Like, what's the frequency of like collaborative planning or PLC time, meeting time versus your personal time in the context of a day and a typical week as well?
Yeah, so I teach 9th grade algebra, and we have a math team meeting, PLC, once a week. That's not always the best use of time. So I am really grateful for the professional development with TeachMichigan. It's always a great use of my time, even if we're there all day for 2 days. It's always really, really great ideas being brought to the table.
So in my role as reading specialist, I'm not technically assigned to a classroom every single day. And when I'm not assigned, I support teachers by going into their rooms. And so that's something that has been really monumental for them, because it's not someone coming in for an evaluative visit, but someone who's really coming in to check on you and see, what can I do for you? Do you need to step out? Can I work with a small group? What can I do? I also know that, we have those same like grade level meetings, and for me, they're not my favorite, because I feel like there is a better use of time. So a lot of things can be an email, but there are other districts who are making changes to the way that their schedules look, as far as like having Fridays off and using those, not off, I should say no students on Fridays, and then using those Fridays for planning and meetings so that you don't have to do those things after school. My district does not do that, but it would be awesome. But I say that to say that there are changes being made to respect the time of the teacher, just, not as fast as we would hope they're being made.
Yeah, for me, I think it's an individual. I think it's an individual basis on who needs what time. I don't think, just like with students, like I don't think every student needs exactly the same amount of practice problems to master a subject, right? And I think not every teacher needs the same amount of time in whatever you were saying, PLCs, or in whatever it may be, right? Like I'm a self-described workaholic, right? I mean, like I start my day at 6:30. I have a 0 hour. I end teaching at 3:30 because I have a 7th hour, and then I coach varsity sports, and then I go home and eat and come back and coach elementary sports at night. So I work 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. most days, right? But in the name of students, because that for me, that's what feeds me. Like being in front of kids all day long, all the time, that's what gets me excited, right? And so, but I know I have a bunch of other friends that look at me like I'm crazy, right? And go, how can you do that much? And they go, I need this. So I think the point of that story is like, you have to know your people You have to know your people, and you have to value what they need, and then you have to structure that in for each person. Structure that in.
What I'll add is that as the leader of incredible educators, I think we made some very bold decisions at University Prep. When I said we're gonna just eliminate preps, people were freaking out. But the data, the exit surveys from our district was showing us that workload expectations it was killing teachers. McKinsey, Deloitte have released multiple reports sharing that teachers will continue to leave if we do not decrease the workload expectation. So for us is that they will have PLCs, but it will be once a week instead of twice a week. Or for our elementary school teams, they had it 3 times a week. We gave them time to grade, right? Grading was always a pain. Lesson planning was always painful. And to expect this generation to lesson plan until midnight and then wake up to like, it's just not the same. And I think we definitely need to adjust to the generation that we want to attract and we want to retain. And you cannot ask teachers to do that type of work unless they volunteer. They want to do it, that is fine.
Unless they're
but
crazy.
We can't make it an expectation. So if we want them to do something, we have to be very intentional and make tough decisions on how we are going to give them time during the work day, during their preps, to do some of the things that will create better experiences for their teachers, for their students. Any other questions? I'm like practicing wait time. I haven't been a teacher for a long time, so I'm gonna give it like 5 more seconds. Okay. Well, I want to thank you all for joining this amazing conversation. We hope that Teach Michigan sparked some ideas and that you will knock on some doors and bring some of your notes to some tables so that we can improve the teacher experience across the country because our students' lives are literally dependent on it. And I want to thank our 3 amazing panelists for sharing their work and their commitment to being teacher leaders, and we are so excited to have you. And of course, stay connected. Please utilize the QR code, and also for your CPE course credential, please just use the code at the bottom.